Hello everybody, I decided to try something new today. We're going to do a topic-specific video today and talk about the special mineral production in the United States. Specifically, lithium and cobalt and other materials that seem to be in large supply, but with obstacles in the form of citizens being in the way of production. This video's purpose is to point out the clear and obvious land grabs being made by the U.S. federal government right now, and to bring to light the nefarious actions of those who are in charge of keeping us from harm.
Can I tell you what I find suspicious as that one of the areas affected by Hurricane Helene is the world's largest lithium deposit, and the DoD just entered into an agreement with this company right here to mine lithium for electric cars starting in 2025. Now that area is completely devastated. This is a $90 million agreement between the DoD and this company right here to get Kings Mountain, North Carolina lithium mine up and running by 2030. If that area has been inundated, is in a disaster zone, then the government can come in and do eminent domain, and they can pay you what it was worth 5 years ago rather than what it's worth right now. Imagine that your home has turned into a watery lot and the government comes to you and says, hey, I'll pay you what you paid for it. You're gonna take it and you're gonna go, right? What do you think is going to happen right here now that they want this lithium mine up and running by 2025, 2030 at the latest? Back in 1947, we had the Florida-Georgia hurricane, or Hurricane 9, and it was the first hurricane to be targeted for weather modification. What happened was General Electric, the U.S. Navy, the Army, the Air Force, they poured dry ice into this hurricane using airplanes to see what would happen. Would they slow it down? Well, what happened was it slowed down a little bit, but it turned west really sharp. Let me show you. This is the path that the hurricane took in 1947. Does it look similar to you? Probably not. It's a coincidence, right? Moving on. I'm sure this is just another coincidence, but do you know who owns the most shares in that lithium mine? BlackRock and Vanguard.
I've said this before on here, but it's just way too much of a coincidence that these disasters lined up perfectly with the agenda of those who would benefit financially from them. I'm curious to see what dropping a large amount of dry ice into a hurricane would do to it, but I don't think it's worth it if in doing so we leave ourselves with devastating after effects. Also, I don't think I need to remind you that BlackRock has a very questionable track record. My hope now that we have a new administration coming in is that we're finally going to get some help for the people in North Carolina, and perhaps some answers on what actually took place there, because the official story isn't remotely believable.
So I kept getting comments like this one. Chile has the largest reserves. Mexico is not even in the top 5. I made a video about lithium and the lithium in Mexico. Go click this comment to see what she's talking about. But I disagree. So according to this, in 2022, Chile had 9.3 million metric tons of lithium, which is a lot, don't get me wrong. And supposedly it even says right here, the largest worldwide. I don't know why it says that. But Mexico has a single deposit in Sonora called La Ventana that has 243 million tons. So I don't know, 243 million seems like it's more than 9 million. But for some reason they never like to include Mexico, and they always like to leave Mexico out. And this is just one deposit, guys. This is just one deposit in Mexico. So no, Mexico definitely has more lithium than Chile. And I'm not bashing on Chile. I love Chile. Chile es un país increíble. I love Chile. But for whatever reason, whenever I'm making these videos, these informational videos that include stats, numbers, lists, charts, all that type of stuff, they always exclude Mexico. They act like Mexico doesn't exist, or they just put Mexico at the very bottom. I don't know why, but it's always very important to see who's making these lists, who's making these statistics, because no statistic, no chart is unbiased, guys. And as many of you may know, a lot of people don't like Mexico, but Mexico is underrated and Mexico is a powerhouse. The sleeping giant is waking up, guys.
If this is true, then it does make you wonder why it isn't talked about as much. Of course, the idea of being able to produce our own minerals is preferred, if it can be done without severe consequences to those people living around the mining sites. But we already do a large amount of manufacturing and trade with Mexico, so I don't see why this isn't being tapped into more. Maybe it is, and we just haven't heard about it. If anything, we should be down there collecting some of that lithium in exchange for all the stress and hardship that they put on our country by allowing all those illegals to flood across our southern border. But that's just my thoughts on the matter. What do you think?
Here's an interesting story that pits environmental conservatism against resource management, because one of the world's largest lithium mines has been discovered in rural Maine, of all places, right here in the United States. We wouldn't even have to import the lithium that we need to make the transition from fossil fuels to green energies, because a lot of the new battery-powered technology very much so demands lithium. Solar panels, all it's kind of complicated stuff, but lithium is extremely valuable, and it's extremely important to making a clean transition to the future. So you'd think this is great. Oh my God, we can just mine it locally. It doesn't have to come from somewhere terrible. We can manage the pollution. Or maybe we won't, because Maine, of all states, has incredibly strict mining regulations and incredibly strict runoff and pollution regulations as well. So much so that the couple that owns the land that this mine is on is not able to even properly assess its size and value. They just know that it's very, very big, which is crazy. And I understand this because Maine has been the site of several mining and industrial disasters for a long time. A number of their communities have paid penalties for having mining runoffs and things like that. So in a response to all of their children getting terrible diseases and their environment being polluted, they passed really strict pollution laws. But now we find ourselves in a problem that we may need to mine in Maine, because doing so would give us the resources we need to transition our country, and in some small part the planet, over to a more long-term sustainable resource or energy production system. So, oh boy, a lot going on here. You just have to kind of balance these things. Do we destroy this one town in Maine to save the country? Do we do nothing?
I think that him saying that destroying one town in Maine could save the entire country is a bit of an exaggeration. If that town doesn't get mined, we'll still be fine. But it is interesting to see where the line is drawn between damaging the local environment and mining large amounts of lithium. Maine is a beautiful state from everything that I've seen, so I can understand why people are against this. If everyone who was going to be affected by it actually agreed that they were okay with it taking place and it wasn't going to harm the local environment, that's one thing. But the reality is these people are not going to want this to take place, and it's probably going to happen down the road anyway, whether they like it or not. After what happened on the East Coast with all the flooding and everything, I'd say that they're willing to take whatever they want regardless of what we think. So let's not forget that this town in Maine exists, because it'll probably be in the news again sometime soon.
It was only a matter of time before we saw this kind of thing happening, and this will not be the first waste and recycling facility to ban lithium battery containing devices to their sites. I think this will be the first of many. So lithium batteries are extremely explosive, and you get them inside things like e-scooters and hoovers, inside your phone, but also inside things like disposable vapes. And when they are damaged, when they burst, when they go through the processing machines, they can ignite, they can literally explode. And when you think about what they are surrounded by, if it's general waste, loads of stuff's made of plastic, loads of stuff's paper, if it's recycling you might have cardboard, whatever it might be, if they get in amongst stuff that is flammable, then obviously that is going to explode and cause a huge fire. And so this is the recent fire that we've seen in Hertfordshire. So this was actually a metal recycling facility, and because of lithium batteries, they've been seeing increasing numbers of fires, which means that they are officially banning these batteries or the devices that are that contain them. And this is not going to be the last time we see this, and eventually what's going to happen is we are going to have nowhere left that is willing to take them, because they are such a huge fire risk, such a huge risk to waste workers, just showing how problematic these are. So recycling is not always the answer, because people get it wrong and it can cause fires. We need to ban single-use disposable electronics.
I don't know that I agree that we need to ban single-use electronics. While it's absolutely wasteful, and I agree that it would be better to not have them, I think a better solution is finding a way to power this stuff without lithium. Why are we pushing so hard to power everything off of lithium if it's this dangerous to dispose of the old lithium batteries? Has nobody thought this far ahead? Is that the simple explanation? How in the world are they going to fix this problem? I feel like the more I learn about lithium, the less value I see was placed on the lives of those in North Carolina who were victims of Helene. It's not even our best option.
Look, it's the modern day blood diamond, lithium and cobalt. Call it what it is. If you could celebrate it over here as some sort of green energy, amazing economic, environmental, home run, it's the modern day blood diamond. And the ironic thing of it all is, if you ran a Ford pickup truck for 20 years, it does less damage to the environment than the creation and removal at the end of a car cycle's life of an electric battery. That's the reality of the economics on an environmental scale.
So they're actually aware that in some cases, some of these green energy initiatives are more harmful than our current system. Yet they still push this stuff on us. No one will ever convince me that the green energy push is anything other than just a big money laundering operation. They pour all these tax dollars into these programs that should have never been funded in the first place. Then they line their pockets with kickbacks and campaign contributions from the same organizations that they divvied this money out to. We all know what's going on. It's becoming more and more obvious every day. There's certainly reason reason to have concern over certain things that we're doing to our environment. But I think it's fairly obvious at this point that if it was a real issue that they were genuinely concerned about, they would have smarter people in charge of coming up with a game plan on how to fix it.
Elon Musk recently said that lithium is becoming the new oil, and that's why local lithium companies are poised to have a great 2024. The global lithium market is currently a $7.5 billion industry and is set to grow at a robust CAGR of 11.8% through 2030. This is because lithium is a crucial element when it comes to the electrification of vehicles, which is still one of the fastest growing industries through 2030. It's also worth noting that lithium-based semiconductors play a key role in areas of national security and nuclear medicine, and the stock we're talking about today is LiFT Power, ticker symbol LIFT on the TSXV and LIFFF on the OTC. LiFT is currently actively drilling at multiple projects, including drilling at the Yellowknife pegmatites discovery stage, diamond drilling at the Rupert project, and potential scout drilling at the Cali project. The most exciting part is that insiders have been consistently buying up the stock in 2023, which means they believe in the future of LiFT. As always, don't forget to do your own research, as this is not financial advice.
It only makes sense that the richest guy in the world who owns an electric car company would want to invest in materials that his company's going to require in order to meet production needs. I'm not a financial expert. I'm just some guy on the internet, but from what I'm gathering, I don't see lithium going away anytime soon. They seem pretty stuck on that being our path forward as far as our energy needs go. Personally, I'd like to see them invest more research into nuclear. I feel like that would be a good way to go. But I also have a very limited understanding of these things. What do you guys think? Am I horribly misinformed about nuclear? Is lithium actually the better path forward and I'm just not aware of the reasons why? I'm sure there's that possibility. I'm certain that Elon Musk has put more thought into this than I have, but he may just be investing in lithium because it's the best publicly available option that we have right now.
Looking at a video now, this is so crazy to see.
This is the bottom of the supply chain of your iPhone, of your Tesla, of your Samsung. I mean, I'm just naming those companies.
Right.
It's all of them, right? All of them. And here's what you need to know, Joe, about this video. This is an industrial cobalt mine where there's not supposed to be one artisanal miner. Now, that's the term used for people who are just digging by hand as opposed to tractors and excavators. There's not supposed to be one here. That's what the story is told at the top of the chain. There's more than 15,000 human beings crammed into that pit, digging by hand. And if you have sound, you hear the mallets, you hear the shouting, you hear the grunts. And that's the truth that needs to get out there. That's the truth people need to understand, because this is a story that goes back generations. There's these fictions told at the top of the chain about what conditions are like at the bottom, and truth seekers have to go find that truth and enlighten civilization so that people get agitated about it and want to do something about it. So there's no clean cobalt. Let's just make that totally abundantly clear.
Like I was saying before, there has to be a better solution to our energy needs than mining for this stuff. And seeing the conditions of this cobalt mine just makes me feel more torn about the situation here in the United States. If we have our own lithium and cobalt reserves, and we really do need this stuff, then we should be mining from our own land instead of taking the resources of other countries. However, this is America. If the residents of a small town don't want their community destroyed over a mining operation, they have to be heard. You can't just take those people's land. I don't know what the answer is here, but it seems like the government's answer is to take by force.
Elon Musk. I thought he was one of the good guys. Elon Musk owns the lithium mines in North Carolina and the refinery in Tennessee. Where's all the material for these EVs and all this other stuff going to come from? From the lithium mines in North Carolina, as well as the refining facility in Tennessee. We need more of both.
So I did a little digging on this, and I can't find anything that is legitimate looking that claims that Elon Musk has anything to do with this lithium mining operation. I did see that Tesla owns mining rights in Nevada, and Elon Musk has a refinery being built in Texas right now. I suppose we'll see the effects of what that looks like when it's operational. I'm personally a fan of Elon Musk. I don't have the same suspicions that a lot of people have that he's some sort of antichrist. I think that he genuinely wants to see the world become a better place. That being said, although I'm a fan of him, if it turns out that he was involved in the lithium mining operation in North Carolina, I'll turn on him faster than the speed of light.
This flooding in North Carolina does not sit well with me. I think something's going on. So I decided to do some digging. So the first thing I find out is North Carolina has the richest deposits of lithium in the entire world. Yeah, lithium for like cars, batteries, all that. Then I find out they have the world's highest purity quartz deposits. And that quartz just so happens to be the world's supply for AI chips, microchips, and all kinds of stuff. We're talking a $530 billion industry. So this is where it gets interesting. So a company by the name of Piedmont Lithium is awaiting a state mining permit for a site in northern Gaston County. And Gaston County is completely flooded right now. The project was awaiting zoning approval because they were getting backlash from the residents and also city officials. And this lithium mine they want would be the third largest producer of lithium in the world. And they made a deal with Tesla already. Now remember the quartz? So in Spruce Pine, North Carolina, right next to Ashland, they are wanting to expand their mines even larger, and the residents aren't having it either. Enter the floods. People, these are mountain towns. It rarely, if not ever, floods in the mountains. I would know, I grew up in the mountains in Colorado, which means none of these people have flood insurance. I mean, the media is saying biblical devastation in North Carolina, AKA like the worst thing that could happen, and you're not coming back from it. Read between the lines, people. Everything happens for a reason.
The plot thickens. So not only are they after the lithium, but there's a massive reserve of quartz there as well. Those poor people in North Carolina. I just don't know what to think about this whole situation. I just can't help but to see all these red flags and start connecting the dots. And it looks like something majorly nefarious has taken place. It looks like people are having their land stolen from them. It looks like the government is showing what they truly think about their citizens. At some point, you can't help but jump to conclusions. One thing they could do to stop the conspiracy theories, though, is to start flooding that area with money and resources, but that's not going to happen.
It's just unthinkable. We don't want to leave and have to relocate. I'm 80 and he's 82. We don't want to have to start all over, and we just love it here, and it's historical.
This is 5 acres here of the farm is where Libby and I raised our children, reared them.
We moved from uptown Charlotte here because we came out and we saw how beautiful and gorgeous the property is out here. They told us that if we refused to sell, that they would mine around it. 73 parcels of land. They don't even have their zoning permits.
Concerned about the blasting and the truck traffic and the noise. I would like to keep a legacy going.
And we just love it. It's so green and just beautiful and lush, and really can't see any neighbors. I think it's God's gift.
It's really sad that people invested their whole lives into a place, spend decades turning a parcel of land into a home. Then some mega corporation comes in and says, "You're out of here. Sell us what we want or we'll destroy your peace and ruin your life." These companies are so flush with cash, they could offer these people a ludicrous amount of money for their property. But this is Piedmont, owned by BlackRock, so they likely just give them a lowball offer and lean heavily into pressure tactics.
Wouldn't it be crazy if somebody just let you on to the knowledge today that Kamala's husband, Doug Emhoff, is actually a huge shareholder, a controlling shareholder, by the way, in BlackRock? Wouldn't it be crazy if somebody gave you the knowledge that BlackRock actually acquired 2.2 million shares of a mining company that is set to start mining lithium here by 2030 or 2025 at the earliest? They acquired those shares less than a month before the floods over in North Carolina. That would never happen, would it? That would just be like coincidence. Wouldn't it be crazy if somebody actually told you that 3 days before the floods, the government actually granted $250 million in grants to the mining company to start production? Or would it be coincidence if Doug Emhoff, the vice president's husband, is one of the major investors in the lithium mines over there? That would just be too much. That would be like That would be, that's just can't happen. No, nope, yep.
It's all one big club, and we ain't in it. Guys and gals, how did you like this new format today where we're focused on just one topic? I wouldn't call today's video a deep dive. If I ever do a deep dive, I'll be using my own images and stuff, not clips from TikTok. This just had a lot of stuff in it that I wanted to point out in case people weren't aware of the current state of lithium and cobalt mining in America. A bunch of people are about to make a bunch of money in a very unethical way. The government has turned its back on the people of North Carolina and will, I'm sure, inevitably end up handing these people's land to these mining companies. I hope they prove me wrong, but it looks like it's the next step in the game plan. There's already reports coming out of the area of dangerous chemicals contaminating all the soil in the area. They're just going to come out and say this land isn't safe for human habitation, so everybody's got to leave, but it's safe enough to mine. I've never hoped that I was wrong as much as I hope I am now. But this really feels like it's blatantly obvious what's going on. The smallest little part of me thinks there's no way. There's no way the government would do this. There's no way the government could get away with this. There's no way the people would put up with this. But the government has shown us they're willing to use us as lab experiments. And they have no one to answer to but themselves. And they're not going to start an investigation into their own ill doings. And the people that we're talking about are completely powerless at the moment. They just lost everything. I just hope this next administration that's coming in does something to help the people of North Carolina. Our current administration just keeps funneling all of our money overseas while we have people here on American soil living in warlike conditions. But I'll stop my little rant now. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'll be back on Monday with another. I hope you come back to see me. Have a great, safe, and fantastic rest of your weekend.